Hello, everybody, and welcome to Geopolitical Trends. So excited to be with you today. So, because I am going to be talking about a topic that, yes, there are some coverage on it. It just the sort of the content of the articles that I read so far have not really tackled the depth of what this is all about. Of course, the upcoming trip of North Korea's Kim Jong Un to Russia. So I'm going to detail for you the big picture about all this. But before I'll do that, like I always do, I like to extend my sincere thanks. I know some of you have been complaining as to I take too long to say thank you to members. I will have to keep that because that's my way of showing gratitude. So if you are not happy with this, then you may as well just leave altogether. Straightforward. There is no sugarcoating here because that's a priority. I always like to express my sincere thanks and show gratitude. That's how it works. If you couldn't be patient for a few minutes, well, there is something you need to look inwards, man. That's straightforward. So anyway, thank you all. If this is your first time landing here, I will greatly appreciate if you could subscribe to show your support for this channel. And I am very, very grateful for all your continued support. So what am I going to share as far as some announcements? I don't have much here except for the upcoming course that I am going to be doing about the government. Let me just share the link with you for those who might be interested in checking it out if you are interested in this. So let's get into our topic here. And by the way, guys, remember to join me on the locals and a rumble. So I think I'm going to be on the locals tonight around 7 or 7:30, somewhere around that time. So, all right, what are we going to be talking about today? We're going to be talking about, is there a secret agreement between North Korea and Russia? So I know I released the video for you this morning. That was just brief, but I'm going to detail a few things here. That's why I made the decision to move forward with making a live stream about it. So the second question we need to ask is where China fits in, because you have to understand the history and the link between North Korea and China. And the third one, which to me, I look at it as the wild card, is what will Iran do? Will Iran join the club? And what do I mean by the club? And I am going to detail all of this as I move forward. So, first of all, I need to clear up something about the title. There are some of you, and I did read some comments even here, that they disagree with the title and so forth, which of course you are entitled to your opinion. What you probably misunderstood is I put the title for a reason. Yeah, I understand it's not a pariah, whatever that term is. That's the title that I wanted to highlight to you how things are perceived in Western media. Because most of the Western, if you look at the literature, the analysis, the white papers, most of them will refer to it. It's no different than what we had back then after 9/11, which, by the way, today is the anniversary of it, 9/11. Well, what did we use? We used the term the axis of evil, right? So that was the reason why I put that. I put that to highlight to you the thinking of Western mindset when it comes down to propaganda. That's one, and how things are sort of to manipulate the masses. Yeah, it would be easy for me to put a title of the Alliance of Resistance. It makes more sense. But that was not my objective. My objective was wanted to highlight to you, maybe indirectly, maybe sort of, that's where I was coming from, just to put that to rest for some of you who might be a little bit sort of misunderstood what I was referring to here. So, well, here is now where I see everything moving forward. And basically with this, I am going to put my geopolitical analyst hat on, except for the section of the history, which I'm going to talk to you a little bit about history. So basically, the way you're going to have to look at it is that, like I said, the question, is Russia and North Korea forging some sort of stealthy relationship or an alliance? I won't be surprised, given the dynamics taken on the ground, not only in that part of the world, the Korean Peninsula, but we're looking also in Europe, we looking also in Africa, and we looking also in South China Sea. So, and this is why in a world that is like teetering on edge, because like I said last time, there is no way that you are not sensing what's going on around the world. I mean, there is no doubt in my mind. You are aware of what's going on. So what you're saying, basically, the power moves now that being made, because it's nothing but a chess game in geopolitical chessboard. That's exactly what it is. What am I referring to? I'm referring to U.S., Japan, South Korea alliance. I'm referring to AUKUS. I'm referring to South Korea. I'm sorry, New Zealand being pulled into. I'm looking at Philippines being dragged into. I'm looking at sort of the creation of some sort of division within Indonesia. It's because of how ASEAN is. So you are aware of these power moves. Then you add, of course, the Ukraine-Russia conflict, which, by the way, you get now NATO is going to be conducting maneuvers in the Baltic. Well, if you look at the map, I might be talking about this one tomorrow on the big channel. That's just like, what are we doing here? So it's kind of for Russians at some point, they're going to snap, and we all know what it means. So we all can sense where things are headed. This is why I say I have confidence in you, that because you are aware. Yeah, and I'm not saying it to be Mr. Nice, because you guys, the audience I have here, you guys, I consider you different a little bit than average Joe, average Jane. Your knowledge, it's, sort of, you are perceptive into understanding the dynamics taking place in the world. And this is no different as to now what's going on with the fear, the chaos, or is it simply a change in the global order, which what I lean towards. All this is highlighting nothing but a change in the global order. So, and why is this? It's because you're going to have to think in terms of how North Korea, for example, now is bolstering its arsenal, military one, especially with the, and I'm going to share some pictures with you. Let me do it right now, especially with the launch. Yeah, you heard me correct. The launch of their nuclear submarine. I checked the info on this. It is accurate. That's their nuclear submarine. It's a nuclear one. So, and this is why we're going to have to put this within the context of the idea of, okay, if it is bolstering its arsenal, it seems to me, as a geopolitical analyst, that we are entering into a new phase in global geopolitics. There is no other explanation for it, and what makes it even more compelling, at least in my opinion, is that the idea of I have somebody texting me here. The idea of with this change in the phase of the geopolitics, you're looking also at a change in the global balance of power. Because to me, with these changes, it's fait accompli. It's a done deal. And this is what I'm saying, is the alliance in the making. So, and I intend to detail a little bit more about this. So the question we need to, before we get in even to, because this kind of settings or situations require some key questions. Well, the key question that's going to be now is, what are the political or geopolitical cards Washington is going to play? Because Japan and South Korea and Australia and Philippines and New Zealand, Indonesia, Malaysia, none of them can do a squat. Let's just say it straightforward. It will be the US, basically. And that is one of the key things to just think about in terms of the dynamics that's taking place. So to me, and this is my personal opinion, I feel comfortable saying that now the global balance of power, usually when you mention the balance of power, we're talking about not only East-West, but we're talking about the military aspects of it. Yes, the US still has that little bit supremacy, but the gap is closing in. So, but before I'll move forward into this, it behooves us to look a little bit at history, because it's very, very important. We don't know much about North Korea because we couldn't have access to it. So anytime I read something that says, especially coming out from, like, for example, the National Security Council, well, we have information that it makes it sound like they had access, they had spying, whatever. No, they don't. That was one of the challenges the West is having. Couldn't have access inside North Korea. Couldn't have black ops inside North Korea. That's the reality of it. So a brief history here, because it's very important. North Korea is a country with population of about 24, 25 million, and it's located, let me get you guys the map. So, and I'm going to leave the map for you guys to see right here. Here we go. And it's located about the northern half of the Korean peninsula, between the East Sea, or Sea of Japan, and the Yellow Sea. So formally, it is known as the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, or DPRK. It was founded in 1948, when the United States and the USSR at that time divided the control over the peninsula after World War II. So North Korea, as we all know, it's very secluded, very secretive, because you can't just get in. That's the bottom line to it. Yes, some in the West saying, well, it will remain isolated. Well, it's their system. That's how they want it to be. Be it, and let them be. So now, there is one thing I need to, I don't have the image of it here. I thought I did, but anyway, you can figure it out here as far as I'm sure all of you heard the 38th parallel, right? Well, how that came about. So let me take you back a little bit in history. In 1910, Japan formally annexed the Korean peninsula, which had occupied for about based on a historical record, 5 years earlier, following the Russo-Japanese War. So over the next 35, from that time of the colonial rule, the country modernized and industrialized significantly. But many Koreans suffered brutal repression at the hands of Japan's military regime. So we all know the atrocities that Japan committed also in China, when they occupied parts of China there. During World War II, Japan sent many Korean men to the front as soldiers, or forced them to work in wartime factories, while thousands of young Korean women became I put this in quote because it's the historical record, comfort women, end of quote here, providing sexual services to Japanese soldiers. I am sure the Koreans never forgot that. I had a conversation a few years ago with some individuals from South Korea whose ancestors were alive during that time, and I kind of heard the stories back then. So upon Japan's defeat in 1945, the United States and Soviet Union, as I mentioned earlier, divided the peninsula into two zones, influence along the 38th parallel, or the 38-degree north latitude. So 1948 saw the pro-US Republic of Korea, which is South Korea, was established in Seoul, which was led by the strongly anti-communism Syngman Rhee. In the northern industrial center of Pyongyang, the Soviets installed the dynamic young communist guerrilla Kim Il-sung, who became the first premier of the DPRK. The other thing that is very important for you guys to understand within this context, it has to do with the Korean War. It's very, very important, because we can't talk about this without understanding that context. And that one, with both leaders sort of claiming jurisdiction over the entire Korean peninsula. So that's when tensions arose or ratcheted up to the breaking point right at the beginning of the 50s. So in 1950, with the backing of the Soviet Union and China, North Korea forces took over South Korea setting off the Korean War. So now there are some complex reports, historical aspects of this. Of course, we all know the US came to the aid of the South, leading an army of about 340,000 under the UN nations, United Nations, that is, troops in challenging the takeover by the North. So after 3 years of bitter fighting, and more than 2.5 million people that have died, civilians and military, both sides signed an armistice in July 1953. What's interesting about that date is from that date forward, we got involved in many conflicts without intentions of winning a war. That's why you see in the Korean, the Korean conflict, Vietnam, Gulf War, Gulf II, Afghanistan, now Ukraine, and soon to be somewhere in Asia, mainly Taiwan. So that's the way I see it going. So the agreement left the border between the North and the South sort of essentially unchanged. This reminds me of Ladakh between India and China. Yeah, because it was never changed. Well, of course, the British, the UK made the mess and just took off. That was the similar setting, slightly different, but not the Brits, because the Brits, the UK, but rather we were involved into that. So essentially that border remained unchanged, with heavily guarded. That's why you see that distance about 2.5 to 3 miles, somewhere around that figures, while they're running roughly along the 38th parallel. That's why it's very, very sort of heavily guarded. And all that, by the way, there are a variety of sources for this. I'm going to share a few links with you. You can take a look at those later on if you like. So I tend to go in a variety of sources to ensure the accuracy of the information. That's why it takes me time to conduct the research, and before I'll come on the air to share this with you guys. So, and by the way, I do thank most of you, not just some, but most of you guys appreciating what I'm doing in this channel. So I thank you for recognizing that. So I appreciate it. Let me share another link just for your own record, if not record rather, but if you like to read up on things. And that's from both, academia, government sites. It's always nice to look at a variety of sources to get a feel and understanding of where everything is. So, all right, let's dig deeper into really what's going on with all this. Now, the upcoming trip of Kim Jong-un to Russia. Of course, no dates has been set for security reasons, and I am not here to talk about all that stuff. So what I am here wanted to sort of highlight to you is to put or to break it down in understanding the dynamics of how geopolitically a trip like this might end up impacting the trajectory of global order. There are those who say, oh, no way, just North Korea. No, you'll be surprised and you'll be amazed. So first of all, just for you to know, the visit comes at the invitation of the Russian president to Kim Jong-un. So, which is significant. Now, of course, here in the U.S., the National Security Council saying that they will be discussing possible armed deals. How the heck do they know they're going to be discussing armed deals? Were you with them? And this is when those statements coming out of the National Security Council are meant to be for domestic consumption. What they are not saying is that because of our sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Reckless policies that we are embarking on in that part of the world, from expanding AUKUS to include New Zealand, to pulling Philippines and to a degree Indonesia into the mix, to of course sucking India into this. We all know, and now we even start to hear conversation about Vietnam. That is the reason why Uncle Joe, President Joe, made a stop in Vietnam and made that press conference from Vietnam. Why didn't he do it from India? Is to highlight to you that's what we wanted to pull into. Now, if which I have no doubt, Vietnamese people, I have some good friends from Vietnam. Those are lifetime that I've known for years and years. Wonderful people. They'll take the shirt out of their back and give it to you. That's how wonderful they are. So what I was going to say is there is no way Vietnamese will ever forget what we've done in Vietnam. I say it sadly. Yeah. Because of the atrocities that have been committed. So when you hear about, well, the U.S. officials said that the Kim Jong-un and the President Putin will be discussing possible armed deals. Yeah, how did they know? You know, what it's gonna be, again, in my opinion, this is setting up the stage for a military alliance in the making. Mind you that they didn't mention anything about China. And yet China is about to send its own delegation later on. And this is what precipitated, just before this upcoming trip, you all remember, I'm going to share a picture with you here. You all remember the defense minister of Russia, Sergei Shoigu, went to North Korea, you know. And by the way, they showed them the part of the nuclear submarine that North Korea officially launched. So and this is what sort of the National Security Council is not disclosing. Well, of course, because it's just stating whatever make the sound bites for domestic consumption, no more, no less. You know. Now you see why I used the term in the title, the meeting of the pariahs, because that's the thinking from the Western mainstream media's thinking of it that way, you know, because this is not about armed deals. No, it's beyond that. This is about thinking in terms of how we, when I say we, I'm referring to North Korea, Russia, and soon to be China. And you might add the wild card Iran into this. Because what they all share in common. Can anybody tell me? Besides, of course, Russia and China and even North Korea have possession of nuclear weapon. What else do they have when it comes down to armaments? Can anybody type in that for me? I just want to engage you. No more, no less, guys. Not to put you in a spot here, but just to engage you. No more, no less. So, yeah, there is something. And this is something, by the way, we are very concerned about when it comes down now to North Korea reestablishing ties with Burkina Faso in Africa. Because, Mike, my word, ICBMs, that's correct. That's one, but that's for the long range. And within that realm, you're absolutely correct, Mr. Hong Long, you're absolutely correct. Missile technology. That's what I was getting into, especially from the two, North Korea and Iran. Russia and China, it's already advanced into that. You know, heck, we don't even have something now to counter the hypersonic missiles that both Russia and China have developed. So the thinking, this leaves me more convinced than ever that this talks is going to be face-to-face between Kim Jong-un and Vladimir Putin, President Putin, that is. It's going to be about how to go about forging that alliance, which will have a military nation. Yes, the economic aspect will take a dimension of it. As a matter of fact, I just found out yesterday, or the day before, I'm sorry, that the UN now is willing to lift, listen carefully, guys, willing to lift sanctions on Russia's access to SWIFT when it comes down to grain shipments. Yeah, all of a sudden we are willing to lift sanctions on Russia's access to SWIFT. Russia's kind of say whatever, you know, it's too late for that. It's because we're seeing where things are headed when it comes down to the financial structure of the global order. I had a conversation this morning with an entity that they are asking me to do an analysis for them about the aspects of uh, within the geopolitical realm, but with a focus on, for example, where do we see the role of the changes within the financial market? And in specifically, how do we see the new currency that will be emerging from BRICS that will impact or change the global financial order altogether? So I'm here to tell you, pay close attention to gold. I'm here to tell you so. So this is where I see the meeting between Kim Jong-un and Vladimir Putin will be focused on. Now, we're going to have to add to this the role of China. You know, as you all know, I'm sure some of you know that North Korea is a client of China. There is a reason also why China is helping North Korea, because you look at the map. The last thing China wants to deal with is the border issue when you have refugees and so forth. Yeah, you just look at the borders. So, and this is why, what, for example, South Korea and Japan, and when you see South Korea is within distance here or within reach of the North Korean missile, it's no different than Japan. This is why they don't understand. And that's where the idea comes in as to, for example, are we going to be seeing the establishment of a military alliance? I won't call it the equivalency of NATO. No. This one will be for specific reason, for specific objectives and tasks. And if you are, as a matter of fact, China now has developed a very advanced technology when it comes down to hunting for submarines. It's a very, very crucial and important, which means what? That they can hunt, the Chinese can hunt any US submarine in the region. And now you add North Korea to the mix with having launching its own nuclear. Russia, of course, has some advanced submarines. They are very, they have massive expertise into this. So this is where I see that military alliance in formation is coming up. You know. It also indicates to me that the all three countries do see where things are headed as far as conflict. Because it will be naive of us to think, oh, nothing, it's just the US flexing its military, Chinese flexing their military, Russians flexing their military, North Korea and South Korea and Japan engage in military exercises. It will be naive of us to think like that. Because at least for some of us in the West, it will be some sort of an arrogance to think that the other parties are not smart enough to read between the lines and see what lies ahead. And what I see with an image like this that you have on your screen right now is the idea that could this military alliance between those three, and if you add Iran, to the mix to it, then you see where this might be headed. And the one thing for sure, should this evolve and move forward, then now you have in a counterbalance. And there is nothing more detrimental to any superior entity that had some sort of a superiority in a military realm, all of a sudden to start seeing the emergence of another entity that could counter that measure or that balance. That's why we call it in political science, they use the term counterbalance. It's a term that is used commonly in literature when it comes down to international relations and so forth. So this is where I see personally. And basically, to even break it down, what I'm seeing is North Korea talking to Russia, talking to China, that, hey, if something comes up on the Korean Peninsula, should I count on your support? The same thing China will be saying, hey, if something happens on the Taiwan or the South China Sea, should I count on your support? And same with Russia is saying, should things get worse, even though Russia has the capability to really have. I have somebody from Twitter. I wish I could have kept it for you guys. Maybe I do. Send me very, very interesting, but at the same time disturbing. Very, 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 very disturbing, in a sense of, if we keep pushing, uh, uh, this idea of let's provoke the Russians, it could lead to some outcome that we might not be ready to deal with. I don't know if I can find it here, but no, I don't have it here, so I don't want to waste time here for you guys. So I'm gonna keep talking here as to what I need to cover. So the idea of this is where I see the whole reason for having not only the meeting between Kim and Kim Jong Un and the Russian president, but also highlighting the sort of the involvements of China in the big picture. So, where is the this is by the way, this is a satellite image that I get my hands on. It's shown highlighted, and this is why, again, highlight that point to you. For the three parties, China, North Korea, and Russia, it's a win-win if they all coordinate their military strategies, because they're going to cover, I know you guys can't see what I'm pointing out on the picture, but the whole region can be covered per se by the three countries. And if China, as I mentioned to you earlier, developed that advanced technology as far as hunting for the submarines, sky's the limit. In other words, they'll be undermining any presence for the U.S. And I am sure the capabilities of the North Korean nuclear submarine, which will be mainly for, I'm assuming, will be for defensive purposes, but I don't know. I don't know that answer to that. What is the objective of it? So this is basically what I see happening in that part of the world. Now, taking this to Africa, some of you might say, well, okay, where this fits in, like I mentioned in the video, what the National Security Council was focusing on is the idea that, well, it's just because Russia needs weapons, so North Korea will be sending the weapons to. No, that's nothing but distraction. They're moving away from the key information that you guys need to understand and put within the context of this global geopolitical shift. That is what it is. So when you have entities sort of stating that we have information that Kim Jong Un expects to discuss the diplomatic engagement, no, it goes beyond that. It really goes beyond that. So, because there is one thing that both countries have in common, both countries, North Korea and Russia, they are both at the crosshairs of the United States. And of course, with the sanctions, it makes perfect sense. But now you're looking even at China hitting back. You all heard what China just did as far as banning the use of iPhone, because it's hitting back, and it's hitting Apple very, very hard. There is a conversation behind closed doors between Apple and the government in Washington. That too late for that. Too late, in my opinion. This is where I see this is moving forward. So now there is the other argument, which I'm going to bring to highlight to you as an analyst, and it has to do with Africa. Now, by the way, just FYI, does any of you know how Iran developed its missile technology? I know Iran's been under sanctions for over almost 40 years. Let me see if anybody shares some answers. Excuse me. Yes, you are right. Cam 35, her iPhone, Angela Merkel iPhone was tapped by the NSA in US. We were listening to it. By China. No. Yeah, and I know it takes long for this to show up here, guys, and it's just the way it is. It goes very, very slow here. So let me share it with you so we can move on. So some of Iran's missile technology was developed also through North Korea, because North Korea has sort of, I mean, they developed ICBM. You don't develop ICBM based on thin air, you know, and ICBM, they're very, 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 very complicated and so forth. I don't understand the dynamics, aerodynamics of the missile stuff. I don't know. All I know is that there is some specialized knowledge that goes into. So for North Korea to develop that, I'm sure they have help from either Russia or China or both. But for Iran, it was mainly North Korea, to my knowledge. So that is the idea. So why am I bringing this up? So to tie it back to Africa, when you think about Africa and the role of now North Korea reestablishing the ties with Burkina Faso, and if there is, I'm going to do a video for you guys about some major development in Burkina Faso. I don't want to spoil it for you. I'm going to keep it, but and involves China. I will do a video for you. So the idea of Burkina Faso developing its own military, and if North Korea can share that technology, not on the advanced level of ICBM, because Burkina Faso doesn't have the infrastructure for that kind of stuff. They do have uranium, they do have gold, they do have oil, they do have some sort of major natural resources, but I don't see them doing that. What I do see them is having the capabilities now to fend off their own and defend their own borders. And this is why France had to now evac its own military from Niger, because they know it's over. And for Africa, it's now or never. If Africa doesn't get it together this time around, that's it. And I'm leaning more towards Africa is going to move forward. It's almost like, feel like this saying, enough of being taken advantage of as far as our natural resources. So the entrance or the reestablishment of the diplomatic relations between North Korea and Burkina Faso is sending a strong message and signal to Washington as to what lies ahead in Africa. Because you got now countries that falling like domino effect. I won't even be surprised that the next country is going to be Nigeria. Yeah, there is a conversation inside Nigeria as to the discord that exists within its own government, given how its president Tinubu, the one that is advocating for the interest of Western powers instead of Nigerian people. I used to remember back in the day in college, I had a professor in communication was from Nigeria, from Lagos. You know, I still remember his name, Igor. Wonderful guy. He was rowdy, but he was a wonderful guy. And I used to mention it. It's like, how come Nigeria, with all the oil resources, the corruption is massive? And he said, oh, yeah, man, that country, if it can get its act together, it will be far ahead. And this is what is going to be happening. And this is where I see that emergence of this alliance I wanted to talk to you about. So this is not only on a diplomatic front that is a reflection of the changes of the global order, but also on the military dimension that will show the counterbalance to whatever's going on, mainly in Asia, with now the alliances that the US is expanding even further and sucking in countries into that orbit, like New Zealand, like Philippines, like South Korea, like Japan. Well, the Japan and South Korea, we all know, because there's no sovereignty. It's no different than Australia. But New Zealand, give or take, I can't say conclusively because I was stunned by the decision of their prime minister, who overturned the decision of the foreign minister, Mahuta. I think Mahuta should be a prime minister for New Zealand. Most New Zealanders will support her. So, but again, I'm an outsider. I can't speak for them. And then you add Indonesia and Malaysia to the mix and so forth. So this is where I see those dynamics moving forward. I dropped my glasses here. So this is where I see those dimensions moving forward as to what's going to be lying ahead, especially if those 3 or 4 countries, China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea, join forces. It will create a seismic change geopolitically and militarily. So that's what I see. So the visit, to summarize my talk here, the visit, I see it as putting the foundation for the military dimension aspects of the relationship. And because remember, there is a Chinese delegation that's going to go to North Korea after, that's the key word, after Kim Jong-un returned to North Korea from the visit. So that's, to me, as an analyst, that's how I see it. I could be wrong, of course, but for now, that's where I see things moving forward. Anyway, that's the reason why I wanted to bring this up for you guys, just to highlight to you. Oh yeah, Cam, that's very interesting. I saw your comment about the railway built by India, and that's nothing but a hypes, by the way, guys. Nothing but a hypes. I intend to address that on the big channel tomorrow, because the aim for that is to counter the Belt and Road Initiative, but it won't work. It will not work, and India is just being used, of course, like the norm here. But again, that's India's decision. So let me see if there is one question. I can take one question here. I am in process of lining up a guest here for you guys, because I hope you find the conversation with Dr. Hammond very, very interesting. He's somebody I trust. He's very knowledgeable as far as his history when it comes down to China. I wish, literally, the U.S. government will reach out to him and seek advice from somebody like him. He's not a politician. He's not interested, but he has the knowledge that can help at least policymakers understand. But the problem for us is our politicians are poor readers of history. As a matter of fact, not just politicians, but all of us. So that's all right. Let me see the question from Hong Luan. Question: what is your view on India's new map and Modi changing the name of India to Bharat? I didn't see the map yet. I need to take a look at it. This is the same argument that's been made about China making some map that is drawing some ear with its neighbors. I didn't even look at that yet. I will. And if I see that is worth your time, guys, I am going to do a video on it, because, I don't shy away from addressing issues. We are here to learn. That is the bottom line to it. China or not, Russia or not, US or not, Iran or not, India or not, it won't matter. It won't matter. But no, I didn't see that one. But as far as the changing its name, I don't know. I really don't know, because Indians will have to decide on that. The question that I've been asking for the last few years is Modi, Prime Minister, really serving Indian citizens, or is he serving his party, or the nationalists, or whatever? Because remember, India, like any other country, has its own domestic politics and politicians. If you can think of the issue of Kashmir, for example. I have friends from Pakistan, and I do talk to them. And what India did a few years ago when they shut down the internet in Kashmir, and it was like, whatever. They're calling themselves the mother of democracy, and yet India's targeting Muslims there. So to me, it's double standard. And again, nothing against India, but is the truth, is the reality. So changing their name is not going to make any difference if the behavior remain the same. That's the way I see it. So for this G20 communique, which I had a chance to read, building this railroad, it will be just talks. Mark my word on it. That's like for us here. We've been talking about build back better. Nothing has been built. Sometimes politicians use terminologies for domestic consumption, no more, no less. And the G20 was nothing but, like I put in the title, echo chambers, no more, no less. So that's the way I see it. So anyway, guys, I hope you find this very informative. I hope you join me tomorrow for live stream, and I am gonna do, I think, the locals tonight. I'll post it for you if I do it tonight or tomorrow. So as always, remember, geopolitics impact your daily life in more ways than one. Till next time. Bye-bye.